I
I'm
thought,
just
like,
okay, we are just not compatible.
I gave you a hard time.
So it's like that much.
So. And but I had terrible sleep, so I didn't.
Stumbled into the streets.
I have now.
Did you end up? Everything's like la la la, and then you go one block over and you're like, oh my god, it's happening.
Yeah.
And you ended up.
And I was thinking, I sort of.
Okay.
Yeah, we are live streaming and we have a quorum.
All right, we're gonna go and get started at 1:33. Veronica, you wanna do roll call, please?
Yes, when I call your name, please say yes. Please let me know that you're here. Aaliyah Armstrong. Here. Faith Dayton.
Present.
Teresa DeSimone. Here. Jacqueline Williams or Drew Yakamini here. I was told earlier they are not able to make today's meeting. Joseph Ditto.
Here.
Paul Davis.
Here.
Noemi Ferrero or anyone with Mendocino Community Health Clinics. Karen Lovato, Naveen Badahari, or anyone with Behavioral Health Recovery Services. Blythe Post. Here. Amanda Archer. Here. Judy Albert. Here. Sage Wolf or Joanne Brewer. Both. Who should I call on for voting? That one. Joanne it is. Dan McIntyre.
Here.
Kendra Palma, excuse me, or anyone with Tapestry Family Services. Will Van Zandt.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. You wanna go over item 2, just as a reminder? I mean, this is a general member. Is this a general member?
No, if it's on there, it's incorrect.
It's not.
It's not.
Okay.
Okay. So the following terms have expired, just as an FYI, until the election. Mendocino Community Health Clinics, Redwood Community Services, and Mendocino County Office of Education. So you didn't count those in the quorum, right?
I did, but it wouldn't matter because their seats are vacant. It wouldn't matter.
Okay.
So it's
I don't count.
You're sorry,
you Billy. And Noemi, oh, I got rid of it. And the other one?
I think one's vacant. Mendocino Community Health Clinics.
Oh, and MCOE. Sorry, Glenn.
We're good though. I mean, we still, the voting members are just, it's a lower denominator.
So that means that we need a quorum of, so it's now 13. So 7. Still means it. We got it.
All right, thank you. Is there any public, did we get any public comment?
I received no advance public comment in writing or verbally.
Karen's here now. Okay, if there's no public comment that came in, is there any public comment on Zoom or in the building? I'm not seeing any public comment. We're gonna move on to the approval of the minutes from the November 20th, 2023 COC board meeting. Any questions or corrections on those minutes? If there's no corrections or questions, we need a motion to approve those minutes as presented.
Move to approve the minutes from November 20th.
Thank you, Amanda. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Paul. Is there any corrections or discussion on it? Not seeing roll call, Veronica?
When I call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain. Aaliyah. Abstain. Faith Dayton.
Yes.
Teresa DeSimone. Yes. Joseph Ditto, Paul Davis,
Yes.
Karen Lovato,
Yes.
Amanda Archer,
Yes.
Judy Albert,
Yes.
Dan McIntyre,
Yes.
Will Van Zandt.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. We're gonna move down to jurisdiction reports. Karen?
We don't have anything huge yet. Megan and I were talking a bit about a new project that we will have. That's a bridge housing project coming soon, but we're waiting for our grant approval for some of our policies in order to be able to actually spend down some of those resources. So hopefully by next meeting, I'll have a bit more detail to share about a funding opportunity through behavioral health.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind the board and the public that our Door for Families program is going really strong. So you're welcome to make referrals to the Front Door for Families program for any families that we're working with that are experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness. That project is being, it incorporates the Bringing Families Home program as well. So it has a really strong connection to families that are involved with child welfare as well. Along the same lines, our Housing Flex Fund is still open and available. We do not get very many requests to the Housing Flex Fund, so I just wanted to remind everybody that is still there and ready for you and your clients should you need it. And then the last update is that probably almost all of you in this room and those in addition to the people in this room will be getting an email soon that will explain a slight change to our interest/waiting list process for Project Home Key and Live Oak Apartments. We're cleaning up some of our past processes. We do have some openings. We're going to be filling, pulling a pool of applicants and reviewing them pretty soon. So now's a good time to send in referrals to Live Oak Apartments. The big change is that we are only going to hold on to referrals for 3 months. We've found that as you can imagine, the interest list ages really quickly. People find housing, people move, people are harder to track down. So we're gonna, any application that's more than 3 months old will need to be resubmitted in order to be current. But don't do anything now. I mean, unless you have new referrals, but you will get some information from our staff pretty soon that will explain the update and encourage you to submit new applications. We've polished up the application process as well. So we do always encourage people to go to the website and use the new forms. Not whatever ones you've had on here. Yes, Judy?
What is the Housing Flex?
So we have a housing called the Housing Flex Fund. It is for security deposits, very limited rental assistance, usually not really rental assistance, but first month's move-in costs, application fees. So when you have clients that are experiencing homelessness, but they don't fit into your rapid rehousing programs or they don't have another source of funding, it's supposed to be like the payer of last resort.
Okay.
So it's pretty flexible. But we would be making sure that other programs that someone might be eligible for would be checked first. Yeah.
Maybe the only question I had, and I don't know if Karen, you want to deal with it, but I think it was back in November, October, there was, FEMA fought back on all the hotels. Has there been any feedback on that?
So no, it's a pretty big statewide crisis. FEMA has changed the rules on the hotel stays allowability during the pandemic. So this is like 3 years old now. And stated that they would not pay for any hotel stay that was in excess of 20 days. So as you can imagine, for many counties, that was a lot of potential financial impact. So in Mendocino County, we were able to recover some of the funds through another funding source through the ESGCV funds that hadn't been spent, but not all of it. But it is a kind of statewide battle that the state is having with the federal government. And I don't know what the outcome will be yet.
I was just wondering if there's been watching.
There are some counties that have excess of $100 million at risk.
Yeah.
Yes, not ours.
Or not necessarily even counties. There are some local
Communities.
that are recognized, right? Like the larger communities, San Francisco.
Yeah.
And Los Angeles, Orange County, that are separate from the counties that have a significant amount of money.
Right. So that is happening.
And just really quick, just for the minutes purposes, I brought up the website where folks can access the Housing Flex Fund application. It's on our COC website, mendocinococ.org/flex fund.
Thank you, Ron. Any other questions for county report? I go to the city of Kaya, Shannon. I don't see Shannon. City of Fort Bragg.
Hi, I have an update on the extreme winter shelter. So my update for January of 2024 is we've been open for 19 days. We use 77 rooms, and to date, we've utilized 6 vouchers for non-local individuals. They got 1 night and then connected to resources to return home. And for the EWS of 2023 to 2024, we had 84 unduplicated individuals use the extreme weather shelter. Another update through the care response unit, we had 2 individuals referred to us through the district attorney office to work with them to do time for time at a residential treatment facility. So we were able to connect 2 into inpatient programs. They both have completed that for 90 days. One went into transitional housing in Reading, and the other one came back to the community and due to his sobriety got reunified with family. So those 2 are no longer homeless. And then my last one, we've been working with Jen Pedro at the Plateau to offer youth services. So we're going to start a youth group from ages 12 to 24 at their facility, doing like a teen drop-in. Some of their youth that live there are on probation, so it's able to give them more resources and support.
Thank you, Sarah. Is there any questions for the city of Fort Bragg? I'll move on to Point Arena. I think anybody's from Point Arena here. Is there any other jurisdictions that I did not cover?
We do have Pinoleville Pomo Nation represented today. Just really quick, I wanna give Aaliyah a chance to introduce someone who's a guest with us today.
So this is my boss, her name is Lucy.
Hi.
We work in the SUD department at Pinoleville, Substance Use Disorder Program. Yeah, I'm the director coordinator for the SUD program out in Pinoleville, Pomo Nations. We are mainly working within the youth within the schools right now, high school teenagers, and it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Thank you for having us.
And while not a jurisdiction, Northern Circle Indian Housing Authority, one of our COC member agencies, is present today. Priest Martinez is here. Do you have any updates you want to share with us, Priest?
No, right now.
No. Okay.
Presentation.
I still wait for like a couple meetings and I start engaging. You haven't met me yet.
Well, I'm gonna keep introducing you.
Yeah, I know.
You don't want to let you off.
I'm very talkative and I'm very.
You and I get on just perfectly
Yes.
fine there. Okay, we're gonna move on to standing committees. Megan, do you have anything for strategic planning? I don't.
No, we've been quiet and
Yeah,
done.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Shelters and solutions, Veronica.
Actually, Sarah's here. Nick,
Oh,
do you have anything
yes.
that you want to share? I can report out, but.
If we had any updates for meeting next month again,
Mhm.
and working on the discharge planning part that was assigned to the shelter solution committee, and Buffy has been present at the last couple meetings, so trying to make some headway that way, or at least trying to, so anyway, Veronica, did I miss anything?
No.
Any questions for Nick? Now we're gonna move down to coordinated entry, Veronica.
Coordinated Entry Discharge Planning Committee is going well. They have switched to a quarterly formal meeting with on the months in between our work groups. So that way we don't have to meet in person physically every single month. Those off months can be via teleconference. So that's going good. They've developed some revisions to the coordinated entry policy, the policy and procedure manual, which is, we'll talk about later on in the meeting. And the coordinated entry system is going well. With the help from Nutmeg Consulting, things are going smooth. You know, case managers who are doing the referrals have an opportunity to follow up on them and make sure that, you know, they're doing quality assurance of all the data and information. And our housing programs are having more success in placing people faster because they're pulling from a list from people who are engaged instead of a list of 800 people who may or may not be engaged. So I think it's helping our system improve not just, you know, housing outcomes, but, you know, the speed of it and who we're housing.
Any questions? General questions, not on the changes, but. Not seeing you, we're going to membership committee, right?
We have not met, but I'm gonna,
Should,
I was gonna say we should meet sometime this month. And we'll get to that later on in the meeting.
We'll probably want to meet after you do the reconfiguration.
Yeah.
yeah,
We're in a multi-month process. to
Yeah.
reconfigure.
Not this one.
no, next month.
Oh,
This one's-
That's why it's done. Aya. HMIS. Just think, just because you sit in the back doesn't mean you don't gotta give it up.
God, what do we have? I think we have system performance measures is due, which we're working on. There's still pick and pit stuff to be submitted. And a couple of things to, our LSA is technically complete, though there is still a project that we need to finish to kind of redesign the way that we handle hybrid programs for permanent supportive housing.
Okay.
Anything else you could think of?
no, this is the biggest thing. Yeah.
Any questions? Not seeing, we'll move on to the ad hoc committee report. Veronica, on the point time count for this year.
Point in time count went well last month. We're reviewing the data and we'll have more information in the near future.
Cool. Okay, we'll move on to board governance protocols. I'll let you take over, Veronica, so you can explain the procedure changes.
So as I mentioned, the Coordinated Entry and Discharge Planning Committee has been working on revising the Coordinated Entry Policies and Procedures Manual. And you will find it starting on page 6 of your packet. All of the changes are marked using track changes. And there are 4 primary changes. The first one is found on pages 9 through 10 of the manual, which is no, wait, I'm confused. Okay. Which is page 14 to 15 of your agenda packet. We added in the housing types. We just didn't have a definition of what those 3 primary housing models are, not interim housing, but just housing, permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, and transitional housing. Transitional housing is kind of on the cusp, but it doesn't, we already had shelters included in it earlier. So that's one change. On page 13 of the manual, we updated the current front door locations. So page 13 of the manual is page 18 of your packet. And you can see the stripe in red, what was taken out, and then the blue that was added in. Priest. I added Northern Circle Indian Housing Authority as a front door location because you guys have opted into that. We're still in the process of setting it up. I wanted to double check and make sure that it's publicly that you're on board with that. Okay.
We're good.
Wonderful, wonderful. So that is an announcement.
Nice.
Pushing buttons. Okay. Okay, third change is I added language on page 16 of the manual, which is 2 pages over, which is page 21 of your packet. And I added language regarding the AB 210 multidisciplinary personnel team. There was language in this with our HMIS form and on the screening packet. We use this, and this is legislation that allows us to communicate with one another without a signed release of information. If the purpose of if the exchange of information will further the person's path to rehousing. So it's not like just share whatever you want. It's if it helps them get to rehoused. And Megan can talk more if you guys have any questions about that one. She knows more. And then the last and fourth final change, which is the most significant one, we added a transfer policy. And this is what spurred the change, the revisions. So page 21 of the manual is page 26 of your packet, and it's in blue. It's new language, so it wasn't in the packet before, so there's nothing stricken. And it's whenever a person is in a housing project where they retain their chronic homelessness status, primarily in ESG rapid rehousing, but it can occur in other programs, that if the housing type that they're in is not serving their needs equitably, so we put somebody in rapid rehousing, we're getting close to the maximum of 2 years of rental assistance, and they're not gonna make it. They're not gonna sustain it on their own. Well, this allows us to re-refer that person or household to coordinated entry, where they would retain their chronic homeless status, and they could be selected by permanent supportive housing projects that require the chronic homelessness status.
Is that the main switch you imagine?
Yeah.
That's the primary, okay.
Yeah, but it can go the other way, and it can, so we left it open to be more flexible.
It could be somebody has a PSH voucher, or they're in the PSH
Or
program.
maybe they're in transitional housing and they need PSH. This kind of lets us, it gives us more leniency in those kind of situations. Where the hardened rules, fast HUD rules are no. This can say, well, if the HUD rules don't apply, our COC has provided this alternate avenue, which is what you would pursue. And that's the 4 changes.
And how does one opt into the 82 claim?
So you, I don't remember where we posted it. I believe it's on our website, I think.
It's on the same
There, so it's kind of underutilized, I have to say, the MDT protocol. It's on the COC website, there's a little drop down thing for the multidisciplinary team protocol. You would tell me, whoever it says to tell, it's probably me. And there's an employee kind of confidentiality agreement you sign and an agency confidentiality agreement you sign. I maintain a list of everybody who's ever signed to them. And it, in theory, not in theory, in reality, gives you the permission to communicate about a homeless individual without having to do anything more complicated. And the MDT team is defined as 2 people talking together. So it doesn't have to be a formal meeting. It can be 2 people talking.
And you say homeless individual, what happens if they come house and they're not homeless? They still covered?
Probably not. Yeah, but what would we need to be talking about them?
Yeah.
I mean, once they're stabilized,
Stabilized or in the process.
you don't have to look at it again. I wonder if it says homeless or at risk of homelessness.
That's what we have Housing Mendo for. That's what I would recommend going to.
Yeah,
Because most of those people have opted in through HMIS and have that in-flight release through that. And so instead of falling under this, I would just recommend going to the Housing Mendo meeting and.
I'd have to look at the legislation, the language again, though. I can't remember. It wasn't super, like, it wasn't all rigid on the definition of homeless. It's not like a HUD document, so.
And I wonder if it covers them for like up to a year until like
You
they're
think it should.
stabilized in housing or
Well,
something.
some of the releases now don't expire, so.
Yeah, this doesn't expire in terms of if you as an employee have signed it, it enables us.
I was just wondering on like the home, like, because theoretically if they're leased. Like, so like, say for our example, for our arguments, if they're leased, they're no longer homeless.
Right,
Mhm.
but if you're possibly going to evict them, they might be considered at risk of homelessness. So I have to look at it again. I'm not sure.
That was my only question, Brian.
Yeah.
Well, I would just say that that's been extraordinarily helpful in families that I'm working with from the school end to identify like what supports and services are they already referred to? What are their CalFresh? What are their, all their benefits that they're getting or who is their case worker, things like that to get pretty quickly streamlined.
yeah.
Has been really helpful.
It does allow a broad exchange of information. Again, not, the classic ones that are usually not allowed to be exchanged, like mental health history and substance use history are still pretty protected.
Yeah.
But other things that are related to their ability to gain housing are allowed communication.
If you want the documentation, you can go to our COC website, COC.org. Hover over resources and the AB 210 protocol. The documentation is here.
Oh, good. It's right there.
Let's see what it says.
That's all. Anybody else have any questions on those changes?
I was just wondering in terms of the connecting to the coordinating entry for the front door sites. I mean, was that just because these are the agencies that said, yes, they want to be part of it. So like the Arbor didn't want to be part of it anymore, and the cabin didn't want to be a front door anymore. Is that what it was?
It's a fair amount of unpaid work, I will say. So I think the organizations that have been doing it at a kind of their hearts might be getting a little overwhelmed with that.
The cabin became a funding issue.
Oh, did it? Okay.
And the Arbor changed it expanded its focus from homeless to just any youth resource center. So it just didn't.
Well, it's always been.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not just homeless and it just wasn't so really,
Didn't make sense.
it wasn't being utilized as a drop-in center for coordinated entry and we didn't have a way of really supporting it becoming a homeless drop-in center. So
So normally will you also have the hours on there for accessing this?
We did, but we removed those at the request of the providers because sometimes their hours change.
And so
Yeah.
rather than having to go to the coordinated entry policy manual every single time our hours change and go, oh, that's no longer
Oh.
correct, or that's correct this week, but not next week. Rather than it's maybe
Okay, so is it better
provide a
just
phone number in
So
there.
it's better just to call and say, this is when we're gonna be open.
I would still hope that the coordinated entry committee and the board gets to a place where like there's a regular flyer that gets put out with the updated hours. But we don't want to have to bring the policy manual back to the board for approval just because we changed the hours for a
Well,
week.
no, that makes sense. I was just thinking,
But a flyer.
you know how it is. I always look up people's hours all the time, so.
Yeah.
So I have to change this. I have to swap out my cabin for Northern Circle. But we do have all the information on our website here, Judy.
We may, once the bridge program gets a little bit more established and actually staffed, we may be able to be at door as well.
I'm guessing.
Until we actually have people, because getting people's been a challenge, but yes, that's the intent, is to be able to do that.
And just for transparency purposes for the public, there is a difference between a front door coordinated entry location and a referring agency. So like McCavan still refers to coordinated entry. They're just not open for drop-ins for anyone and everyone to come in. That's what a front door is you'll help anybody that walks in your front door. Yes, it may need to be during specific hours, but it's like, we don't just serve our clients kind of idea.
But it is kind of interesting with the Coast Hospital, you have it crossed out, but that's one of the agencies that's open.
No, I just took out, it's just because the formatting.
Hours.
Oh, just because you took out.
Yeah, so you just
Yeah, it's
kind of
just,
cross them all out.
I took out the table and added a new table instead of correcting.
I'm not an editor. I have no idea why I'm being so picky. I apologize.
It's all good. Any other
Who wants
questions?
to leave in 20 minutes, 15 minutes?
I do.
Or will?
So you want a motion or
I'm
something?
going to vote on, let's vote now.
This is the only thing.
Okay. Why don't you make
Okay,
a
there's no
motion then?
question, we need a motion.
Make a motion to approve the new coordinated entry manual.
Is there a second?
A second. Oh, I can't.
No.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any public comment on this? Not any public comment. I'm assuming there's no more board discussion. Veronica, you want to do a roll call?
Yes. Please say yes, no, or abstain when I call your name. Aaliyah.
Yes.
Faith.
Yes.
Teresa.
Yes.
Joe. Paul.
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
Amanda.
Yes.
Judy.
Yes.
Dan.
Yes,
Will.
Yes.
Motion approved.
thank you. I'll move on to funding updates. Veronica, you want to give us an update on the 2024 COC program renewal grants?
We haven't received our debriefing yet, so I have no idea what our scores are. But our 2024 COC program applications, our renewal grants were all approved, fully funded, 100%. Two are received by Community Development Commission and one by County Social Services. Social Services receives the planning grant, which pays for some of my time to do this work. And then there is the tenant-based rental assistance, what we call permanent supportive housing certificate program through CDC. And then they also have the coordinated entry grant contract, which there'll be more talk in the next few months.
Okay, any questions on the COC funding? Now we'll move on to ESG.
I wanted to give an update on the formal monitoring for ESGCV. I have revised the ESG policies and procedures to have everything except one item. We need to add some more for our financial management requirements. And then we should be good. So we've done the revisions to address 7 of the 8 findings. And I'll be reaching out to the 2 existing ESG annual recipient agencies, once those are finalized with the state, to review them to see if there's anything we need to change, anything that doesn't jive with the way that they operate, things like that.
I do want to say it was pretty tedious. It was a lot of feedback that the county got, and Veronica slogged through a lot of very technical regulation. So, yeah. So that ESG manual, again, I have a renewed, not renewed because I didn't know it, but I have a lot of empathy to our 2 ESG providers. There's a huge amount of expectation there for how you need to run those programs.
For such a small return.
For a small, yeah.
Okay, any questions on ESG? Okay, we'll move on to our next favorite topic, HF round 5, which does not sound like any fun.
So the homeless housing assistance program or prevention program. Ooh, that's wrong on our agenda. I need to add the word prevention. Wow, it took way too long to notice. Okay, so HAP, the round 5 application is currently open. It opened at the end of September and the due date is March 27th. In your packet, starting on page 30, is a very, very, very early draft version of the application using the template from Cal ICH. The revised agenda that I sent out earlier today, the revision was to add this to the on page 31, page 2 of the packet of the app, it's broken into 3 sections. I'm pretty confident, I know all of one, because it's contact information and it's who's gonna contract with who, and the COC is letting the administrative entity financially manage its grant, but you don't lose retention on how the funds are used. And our information and things like that. Section 3 is about funding. And that's gonna be how we actually fund the action steps that we want to take as described in part 2. I need help with part 2. It's a very big application. We've been really focused on our governance charter, our governance board reconfiguration, and then the point in time count, and then ESG CV monitoring. And so this is really kind of just fallen away a little bit, and we have to bring it back because it's due in a month. And we have to have something for our board to approve at the next meeting. So,
How does the board of supervisors have to approve this too?
they do with an MOU. That is correct.
Not necessarily before Sue though.
Correct. As long as we have the draft version in there and it's going to the board, they'll accept it. It's just they won't actually accept a final application until it's input. So if it's not done by the 27th, as long as we have this is what the board is being presented, we'll be fine.
We're gonna meet the deadline.
But we're gonna meet the deadline, but I need help.
Do we have a draft MOU that we can copy?
Cal ICH said they are not providing a template, but they did provide a handout that goes over every little thing that needs to be included in it. So I'm gonna take that and translate it into the county's MOU template, so that way it goes faster internally for the approvals.
Or how about for our review?
That it'll be presented at the next board meeting. Yes, COC board meeting, March 19th. So we have to have a plan, a draft ready to go by the 19th. So I've highlighted, yeah.
Sorry, so these are all the sections that need to be included in the plan this is like the full draft sections of the plan that you.
This is the full application that the plan is incorporated into. So page 3 of the packet, I created a table of contents. And the ones that are highlighted in yellow, there are 4 of them, is specifically what I need help with. Participating jurisdictions, roles and responsibilities, an equity improvement plan to reduce the number of people experiencing homelessness upon exiting an institutional setting, and application development process certification. So that's 4 of the 8 sections of the action plan. I feel confident in developing the system performance measures and improvement plan. It's based upon data that they have provided that I've been going through with TA. So I'll need help identifying the actual action steps, but what we put in the other things is really going to inform that. Equity improvement plan, folks exiting institutions. There's a plan on how to utilize funds, which I feel confident in doing. Connecting people experiencing homelessness to all benefit programs. Those are the mainstream programs, mostly through social services. So we can handle that one because it's primarily internal, and the county can commit to this is how we'll get people connected. So I feel confident with that one. And then the MOU, and we'll work on that as all of this goes. Any questions so far? Okay, first section I need help with is participating jurisdiction roles and responsibilities. And that starts on page 35 or 6, depending on which way you're looking. The first one, so what I'd like to do, if the board is willing and open to this, is we're going to review these 4 topic areas. And I'd like to identify a committee to take on the overview of each one and to draft the roles and responsibilities and the specific action steps that will be taken to achieve certain goals. What do you guys think of that approach? Breaking it up into committees.
Veronica, do you mean existing committees or okay, so you would ask the coordinated entry committee to do something, is that what you mean?
Yes.
And the
Yes.
shelter and solar planning committee and maybe not planning, no.
We may have to convene on that one.
Okay. So that's what we're trying to do here.
I don't hear any pushback. Keep going. Well, I'm just, it's just a plan. It's just nobody's against that idea. I don't hear any objection. So under roles and responsibilities, outreach and site coordination. I was thinking shelter and solutions might be a good committee for that one. Because it's street outreach and shelter site coordination for interim housing. Okay. Citing of and use of available land.
What does that sound like?
I was thinking.
Well, sorry, it just, I don't know why TA isn't, like, our TAs do mostly all of our policies and right, we have templates of MOU, we have templates of everything.
Yeah.
Like, we've been in this for a while. I don't understand why TA is not supporting it.
Because ICH is special.
It's not HCD. HCD would.
I know, but I would use like Enterprise or somebody else to TA, like, there's a whole.
We could have, but we're way past that point.
I think
Okay.
that's
Probably what my-
caught up on it, this snuck up on us.
Yeah.
When it first came out, I was like, oh, it's not due till
Maybe
March.
I could just get a team together to help just.
Well, I know you guys are doing, I know that there's a tribal HAP 5 allocations. But I don't.
We got Pavilia to help us do that.
Oh,
I'm talking about policies that need to be, like, if we don't know what those policies look like, we could look at templates that.
oh, yeah, no,
are
that,
made.
that's way further down the line.
Oh.
Absolutely. The policies would identify how exactly we're going to implement the strategies we're identifying here.
Okay,
Yeah.
just tell me what I need to do to help.
I love that you offered because nobody else was saying it.
Oh.
Good job.
I think I'm struggling with, so outreach and site coordination, we think refers to outreach and site coordination for existing or future shelter environments or street outreach environments. Is that-
Yes. So, but I have an FAQ on it. And it says citing and use of available land means identifying and using available and appropriate land to to provide relevant services, interim housing and permanent housing. This often includes identifying appropriate sites and excess land. That's a county.
County or the city.
Yes, so it's.
So I don't see how the COC unfortunately can weigh in very much on that. I think it's gonna have to be a county responsibility.
Okay.
And we don't have a
Sure, I'm kind of on my own.
right now, so I think you and I will have to, yeah, I think that one wouldn't make sense to assign to a committee because the COC has no authority. I mean, they'd have to be requesting approval of land, right?
Right, and
Through the planning and building processes, I guess.
Well, I mean, no, that's. If they're looking at excess land, yeah, we can't identify.
No.
State and federal. We can identify private land.
But you still have to go through the approval process to be able to build whatever that's gonna be built there.
And most likely it would need zoning changes
Right.
and or major use permits.
so it's not what we're gonna do it. It's who's gonna do it, who's gonna be responsible for what. So we know that the county is gonna be responsible for this one, but who's gonna write up the language that needs to be in the application? Who's gonna make that recommendation? But that's what I need from the committee.
Isn't the
But how
county
would
gonna
we
have to
know,
like
though? We're gonna have to, but
I was gonna say, the county's gonna have to tell us what they can do.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying on that.
I mean, you can't write something up and then later take it to the county and say, this is what we promised our.
we're putting a shelter right there. I think this one we'll have to, I think we'll have to muddle this one through. Veronica, and I can ask the CEO's office to weigh in as well.
And if you need the bug, you feel free to email my.
Okay. Development of interim and permanent housing. Options, I didn't write the full thing down on my notes, housing options. Again, I was thinking Shelter and Solutions Committee because they're really the ones that have their thumb on the pulse with this, but we could also do coordinated entry, but that's how we're using our housing, not developing it. Could also be strategic planning.
So let me ask you a question. How's any of the stuff that I'm so far seeing gonna roll back to an organization such as the COC that has no staff?
So this is to put on pen and paper what these jurisdictions are actually going to do.
Okay.
The COC doesn't have much authority, so we're not really gonna be able to sign saying we're gonna do much.
No,
We're gonna support it and we're gonna fund it and we're gonna, have our policies support it. But it's primarily, what is the COC's expectation of the county? That's what I need to know.
I can give you lots of expectations.
I think the challenge with this is this was designed from the state's perspective, this is my understanding. So in a community like,
San Francisco,
you've got the county of San Francisco, you have the city of San Francisco, you have the COC, and they're always like, well, that's the county's job, that's the city's job. Or even worse, in like a big COC, there's multiple cities who might be getting their own HAP allocation and a county. LA County would get a HAP allocation, LA City or whatever, all this. So, and I think the state's effort, it was a little clumsy by making us just put something in a piece of paper. It was to stop that, like, well, that's their job, that's not my job.
who's gonna do what?
It's awkward in our community because we have the COC, which we don't really have any authority to do. I mean, it's a group of people.
That's where I
working
find,
together,
that's where I
And
find,
just the county. So there's not like a bunch of partners.
and that's where I find the fact that the MOU comes into play is like, who's gonna protect the COC from getting run over in the MOU?
Well, in reality, just to be truthful about it, the county has deferred a lot of this to the COC. If you notice, the county was not that engaged in how HAP 3 and 4 spend. I mean, so the county has not been heavy-handed so far in the last couple of years. And right now, I'm not really sure who in county leadership would be dictating a lot of it.
Tell you what, ask Darcy how she wants to deal with this. I'll give you some verbiage for the housing related stuff
Okay.
that I think would be beneficial for the county to do. whether or not county council and or the county would agree with that.
Now's a good time to put it out there.
You might as well put it, I mean, we know how to develop housing. We also know how jurisdictions get involved in making that more difficult. But I don't think we need to get very detailed on it.
I think it would be a mistake for us to get too detailed. I think we need to, I mean, essentially, we're putting in an application to secure funding. They've already told us how much funding it is. I think, and from what I've heard from other jurisdictions, they're not putting a great deal of detail on this because you don't want to be locked into something.
Well, I can give you some high level stuff you can run past Darcy.
Okay.
If that be what Darcy wants to do.
For the land use side or for the,
Or both.
for both?
Because here's a lot of it, a lot of the housing that's gonna be in this plan. I mean, is effectively allowed by multiple assembly bills or senate bills
Already.
already.
Right.
Irregardless of what the county says.
Right.
If it's zoned correctly, they can't tell you no. So.
Again, I think this was meant to address some communities where there's a lot of NIMBYism and they're like, we don't want that, you know, low income housing in our community type of stuff.
Yeah,
So I think
those are
they
the
were
ones that are
trying-
getting sued right now because AB
not going really well.
28 says that they can't do that.
So part 2.1, participating jurisdictions, roles and responsibilities. I should work back with the COC chair who will make recommendations and we'll talk to the county CEO.
For all of them, is that what you're thinking?
No, for 2.1, which is site coordination, land use, development of interim housing options, and coordination of
Okay.
and connection to service delivery.
For those 4 subsections of that.
Yes, of 2.1.
Or it might be the most efficient.
Okay,
I think at the end of the day, it's gonna be.
okay, so that's how we'll approach 2.1, scratch the committee idea.
I just don't know how detailed Darcy wants to get. I'll talk about it.
Well, I mean, it's
Well,
not very much space.
Steve Sutcliffe is the CEO liaison to the Department of Social Services right now. The Department of Social Services
Yes, my.
director is on leave, so I think we can get Steve to meet with you and
He has
me
my
and
cell.
Veronica. But let's do it in a meeting and
That's
like
fine.
just finish it up.
Okay,
Veronica, how much money are we talking about?
close to 2 million, 1.7.
It's still like 1.75.
That's not enough to build anything.
No, it's not.
No, and it's also, this is the 5th round of like,
okay.
yeah, but
It's
it's,
to apply to all 5 routes, because they've had all of these different goals and objectives and we have a different set of percentages per round. And so this is kind of replacing all of that, saying these are your community's overall goals. No matter which the jurisdiction is, you all agree, this is what's happening in your area.
they want us all to talk and agree on stuff. Which is, we're lucky. We're not as complex as some communities. They can have a really hard.
And the other thing too is we've spent or allocated the majority
Yeah.
of our funding throughout the round 4.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you're right, $1.7 million is enough seed money for one project.
Or it's
I don't
enough to
think that's-
continue the projects we already
I
have.
don't think that's gonna be in the best interest. I don't think it's gonna be in the direct interest of the county. Or.
I think they're making us plan though with the concept that they're not planning just for this particular funding source. They want this to be a plan.
Yes, I think that they're gonna leverage this in programs like No Place Like Home and things like that to say, refer back to your community's homeless action.
You would read that this, yeah.
That's what I think is gonna long
That's why
term.
it needs to be written very general.
That's what I
Yes,
think.
that's why I'm coming here.
I don't think we should lock ourselves into specific things at all.
No, because they'll change the goals that they trust me. Because what you imagine is this council is getting, a lot of the stuff this council has is getting rolled under HCD now, so.
Equity plan, equity improvement plan is the next section. Improving racial and gender equity in service delivery, housing placements, housing retention, and procurement processes. And then coordinate entry prioritization for place-based encampment resolution. We don't have an encampment resolution and we don't have an encampment grant, so it doesn't apply to us. It's for jurisdictions that have the Cal ICH encampment resolution grant. So this equity improvement plan that we need to develop. I don't want to do it in a committee necessarily that's just us, the same players. I'd like to I'd like to make this part of the second public hearing that we have to have. We have, not a public hearing, but a public meeting where we gather input, and that's number 2.8, which I'll get to in a minute. But I think we can incorporate that work by getting feedback from the community and saying, what are you guys seeing as ways to improve these areas? And then have a planning, like maybe the strategic planning committee could review it and come up with recommendations.
I thought we started an equity committee.
We were gonna create one.
We haven't yet.
We haven't
Let's
yet.
create an ad hoc one that's an equity committee.
Okay.
Problem solved.
For you.
I didn't say I wasn't fixing it for everybody.
Okay, we'll do this in an ad hoc.
I want to be equitable about it.
Yes. Okay, I know how to go about that one then.
So, I mean, Veronica, you know, it's like with the equity and diversity, I mean, couldn't somebody do a lot of, I know, of course, bringing specific ideas from our community to the plan also, but there's probably been huge amounts of equity and diversity plans that one could get some kind of a template of or some language from that you wouldn't have to recreate the.
Right, and I'm here asking for help because I do not have time to do that type of research. I can't write that.
I knew Karen had something to
I
say.
can be on the equity committee. We have a cultural diversity plan for behavioral health, so we can start with some of those metrics and build from there for some of the pieces. We'll want other representatives for the pieces that I won't have as much oversight of, but I can bring metrics that we already use for
That
behavioral.
would be great.
Okay. I'm gonna work back with Karen when I schedule the second meeting where we gather public feedback. And we'll gather information on gather feedback on an equity improvement plan. And then review that in coordination with Karen's plan and come up with a draft in an ad hoc. Okay. 2.4, plan to reduce the number of people experiencing homelessness upon exiting an institutional setting. The first two are exiting a jail and a prison. And I would like to ask the Shelter and Solutions Committee to look at this, because they're already doing this work in collaboration with the jail. Often, and I think that that's the most knowledgeable group. And we can maybe we could schedule a early March meeting. Okay. So these two, Shelter and Solutions. There's key actions to reduce the number of people experiencing homelessness upon exiting a hospital. I know we have Adventist Health here, but well, I guess you guys operate all three hospitals, huh?
We have Faith Dayton.
Okay, so I'm gonna work back with Faith.
I like to go by my name. But yeah, I think that I'm sorry, I just started a new medication today. But I think, yeah, this would obviously be relevant. I mean, it'd be a part of it.
And I think throughout this whole thing, we should really adopt Dan's suggestion here on. We need to put enough detail to look like, you know, to work on this, but we don't want to lock ourselves into anything super.
It's
So
very broad in general.
broad in general, and maybe point to the things we're already doing rather than like new things, but things that
And
you're
refer
already
back
doing.
to this thing that we-
Yeah, and refer back.
That's really news, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, because part of what makes my heart race is looking at these like key actions and like lead entity, and like this is a lot of set commitment that we're gonna like sit on paper, and
and those are the things that have to be in the MOU. So it's not. We want it to be as give us as much room as possible in case whatever idea we had turned out to be a bad one, right?
Okay, and then The last one, I think I need to work back with my external colleagues because it's number of people exiting, entering homelessness upon exit from other institutional settings like foster care, behavioral health facilities, et cetera, as applicable in the region. So I'm thinking this is child welfare services and behavioral health recovery services.
I think
So,
yeah, I think-
Megan and I will tackle that one.
and connect up with Karen on whatever we need to know about.
And Gina with
Great.
child welfare services.
City Ukiah Recovery Center too,
That's right.
just as a
Sure.
side note. And that would, I mean, that's actually gonna be a large.
That's actually a really good one. Thank you. I wrote that down. Okay, so the big ask that I have,
More? No, just kidding.
there's more. Page 27. Of the application, or page 56 of your packet. We have to have 3 public meetings where we are gathering input and information from the community on what should be in this plan. We're talking about it today.
That's right.
This is a public meeting. It is available. We have members of the public here. So I'd like to count today. The second meeting is what I'd like to have, that hearing where we get representatives and stakeholders, various stakeholders, and we gather feedback from them. But I know a lot of people that know a lot of people, but I don't know the end users of it, which is where you guys are gonna come in. There is a list of stakeholders that must be invited and encouraged to engage in our public stakeholder process. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 specific categories. And there is at least one representative on this board for each of them. And so I'd like your help. So we need to invite people with lived experience of homelessness. And I was hoping to fall back on our 2 shelters and resource centers as a way to be able to do that. I don't know if you guys want to do something in person, if you want to invite them to the large overall one big group where they do it in Zoom, where they, I don't know, but we'll need to talk about that. But are you guys open to working back with me on that? Is there anyone else who wants to be involved in that?
I can get some parents through the school program that
So the
are.
next one is youth with lived
Okay,
experience
I
of
can do
homelessness.
Either.
So
or.
I'm gonna put you on that one, Blythe.
Okay.
Do you have-
Amanda,
I do.
Amanda and I coordinate them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to make this more complicated, but is there any way that we could, like, if there's existing client council meetings or existing board meetings that are already happening that include these stakeholders, that you could just add an agenda item to talk about this at those existing meetings? Because I know we have that. We have behavioral health stakeholder meetings. I don't know if it's going to meet the timeline is the only problem, but that could be easily added to a behavioral health stakeholder meeting.
I don't know of any kind of.
But I think Karen's saying you have one. You
We have,
possibly.
that's what I'm saying, like, if we all said, hey, I have this meeting coming up this date, will that meet your need if you got agendized onto each of those meetings more efficiently than creating new meetings? I know
No,
a
this
lot of
needs to be a
people don't like
specific
that. It has
stakeholder
to be
meeting
specific.
where it's about the
Okay.
homeless action plan.
But we're being pretty broad because our meeting number 2 was going to be a special meeting that we were going to ask people to come to and send representatives if they could.
Right.
But meeting number 3 is our next COC board meeting.
Where it's
So
gonna
we're
be presented to the public and approved.
Right. So we really were only going to end up with one meeting outside of our COC meetings that we would. But if this hadn't hadn't stuck up on us the way it did, that would have been a good strategy.
We should leverage our mailing lists for those though. So once you get the date settled, making sure that we all send it out to those stakeholders so those representatives can attend.
Right.
Will there be guidance on what's needed for people with lived experience?
Absolutely.
Stuff, so we're not just putting people in a room going, what do you want us to do?
Yes, I'm gonna draft an agenda. And I'm gonna bring it to the first Thursday meeting. And get input from those providers there who actually do the services and work with the people, so it actually makes sense. Does that work?
Perfect.
Okay.
It would make sense hoping that, you know, like, I'm good at winging things, but guidance is helpful.
Yes, I mean, it would make sense to do a kind of quick mini focusy group thing in the beginning of the meeting, and then people with lived experience are welcome to stay if they want.
And I really would like to incentivize them by giving them like a gift card or something, but I'm not allowed to do that.
Right.
I
So.
don't know how gift cards work.
Really hard to, yeah. But, so there'll be one special meeting, we're thinking March 14th-ish. I mean, we don't, I'm just putting that date, don't hold anyone to it. But that's.
Yeah, that might have to be it, because and then the COC meeting is the 19th. So it doesn't give me much time to take that feedback.
Right, so maybe early.
Write it, I'm thinking like.
Does it have to be a combined general meeting, or like, could I go to our, shelter and have,
No, it needs to be a publicly available
even if
meeting.
they're asking the same questions and you just are keeping it?
Oh, you mean for the, we could do more than one stakeholder. So if it's like one big huge stakeholder for all groups, if that doesn't work out, we probably could do more than one.
I mean, it would be
Just
just
don't know what
easier
they're
to do that at a shelter with them.
Right.
And if you said, we had a list of questions and we just were giving them kind of like a survey. What's working, what's not working. What we.
Then we end up segregating our responses in different groups because the people with lived experience don't hear the things that our local jurisdiction representatives are saying. And they might feed off of each other. What one person says might change the other person's opinion. Like maybe a member of the Board of Supervisors hears something that a person with lived experience says, and they're like, oh, wow, that completely changes, what I would do in this situation. And a large stakeholder group allows that to happen. When you do smaller targeted ones, you don't necessarily get that more elevated conversation because I don't know what to say.
The one nice thing about that though is to get stakeholders in the room is always really, really challenging. So almost I wonder about having that little survey that we get permission to bring back, even if that person's not there, we have something. Like, this is what that group is kind of thinking. I don't know.
I think that kind of feedback would be wonderful to have. It won't meet this criteria because it has to be 3 public meetings. So, well, pretty clear on that.
But if the survey was brought to a public meeting.
But that would be lovely.
Because that's
the survey results.
So we're not gonna get around having.
No, I mean, like, just so that we don't end up with nobody. I know that's gonna be really difficult,
Yeah.
but if we could get them to do a survey to
That's
bring,
true. Then we
have to.
drop their feedback, just maybe not in person at the meeting.
Right, or if these are the survey results and information we receive from this shelter and this, or all of our shelters combined, like that could inform our stakeholder discussion. And they would still be invited and welcome to come, but it would be less intimidating for them. And if they chose not to attend, their voice would still be represented. Honestly, it's more equitable.
Yeah.
That's
It's trauma informed, it might be worth thinking about.
Can I just confirm that the March 19th meeting is actually March 18th?
Is that Monday?
Yeah.
Okay, it's March 18th.
Okay, just making sure.
We keep saying the 19th.
Follow up dates and hope they're right.
Thank you.
It's just been a couple of times, like. But anyway.
Like, give us an extra day.
One last day to work.
Okay, local department leaders and staff of qualified small jurisdictions, including child welfare, healthcare, behavioral health, justice, and education system leaders. I think we can handle jurisdictions, child welfare.
We know who to invite though for that one. I think we can figure that part out.
I skipped one. Persons of populations overrepresented in homelessness. Every time I look at this data, the number one overrepresented group in our homeless population are people who are Native American. And I would love to have representation from them. Priest, could I work back with you to get some folks invited to a stakeholder meeting?
Schedule. Yeah.
Thank you, Priest. Does anyone else like to participate in that outreach?
I think that probably, I mean, this isn't only talking about demographics like race and ethnicity. I would think that people with behavioral health issues are probably overrepresented in homelessness as well. So Karen may have some injustice involved. So we might be able to also work with those groups as well.
Is there anybody through probation I could work back with?
Oh, make this close.
Jason, Brady, Katie, I mean, I can ask and I'll let you know.
Okay, I will work back with you. And I may have more connections. Okay. Homeless service and housing providers working in that region. I need you guys to come.
That'll be the hardest to get.
Yeah. I don't know if we have access to that population.
Each Medi-Cal managed care plan contracted with the State Department of Healthcare Services in that region, which is Partnership Health Plan of California. And our rep, Lisa O'Connell, is here with us on our Zoom meeting. Lisa, I will make sure that you are invited to our stakeholder meeting for our HAP 5 application. Do you have any requests or anything? Anything like that? Oh, it's really hard to hear you.
Sorry, I had my mic up.
Oh, there it is.
I said it'll either be me or Rochelle, my project coordinator. It just depends on our schedules, but just go ahead and send it to me.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then street medicine providers and other providers directly serving people experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness. Again, it's you guys. And any street medicine providers you might be working with who aren't part of the COC. I know the coast is a little bit more hodgepodge than it is inland. So if there's like Mendocino Coast clinics or anybody like that that you guys are working with.
We have our street medicine.
Well, I do want that in addition to. Yeah.
So are you talking about utilizers or both?
Street medicine providers and other providers. So I would think that people who are being outreached to would fall under people with lived experience of homelessness.
So
Operator.
we can have our nurse come.
That would be lovely. Yeah. Okay.
I think we can do it.
I think we can. Yeah. So I just need you to do some outreach with the folks that you work with. Just to get them open to coming to this, and I'll get it scheduled as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're on the
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Is that all you have, Veronica?
That's all I have for HAP 5. I don't know. Am I still on the agenda?
No, I mean, yeah, you are.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you are down here.
I'll stay on there.
Megan, will you take the TTA?
I will.
Okay, right, any projects anybody want to announce or talk about? Megan, PTA?
Yes, so we launched and then stopped launching a technical assistance process. You probably were all invited to a meeting that we canceled shortly before the meeting because some issues came to light and some questions that were really valid questions from some individuals in the community who were questioning the process we were using to engage ourselves in working more closely with our tribes around homelessness. So that project is slightly on pause while we figure out the best way to engage in this topic. I think I'll Right, so there was a meeting Monday that was canceled. There was the other one that was probably tomorrow that was also canceled.
Okay.
We are still holding the date for the third. It's third that will now possibly be the first. I can't remember when it is. It's early March or something. But everything's up in the air right now. We're trying to figure out the best way to handle, to address this topic that is really important to all of us, to make sure we're working closely and appropriately and effectively with our tribes and our tribal communities in order to collaboratively address homelessness together.
It's on March 12th.
So I'm suspecting that we'll probably end, because I'm thinking we might switch it out for the other meeting.
That's exactly what I'm thinking right now.
So just keep it on your calendars. We'll be figuring this out. And I do want to give a shout out to Priest. Veronica and I spent some time talking to Priest about this process, and he was super helpful and helped us figure out how to do this the best way. So
Very understanding.
stay tuned for more about that initiative that we're engaged in.
And then we have a project too, Paul, we should mention it. So I want to know, so we also just started a collaborative street medicine project with organizations that specifically have a street medicine program that are providing medical services with a medical provider. And we just started a collaborative meeting. So Paul and I and Mendocino Coast Clinic, Consolidated Tribal, Mendocino Community Health Clinic. Who am I missing? Few people couldn't make it, like Mononoma, Round Valley.
MCHC.
Yeah, MCHC. But we're starting to just come together as a community, specifically around the topic of how we're providing medical services and around shelter medicine versus street medicine and where we're providing it, and just working together as a county. So it's specific to Mendocino County. So we're excited about that.
Awesome. That's awesome. So it's the whole part. It's medical providers working with that population, not necessarily on the street, maybe also in their clinics, like whatever venue that's.
Specifically the people doing it on the streets to people who are like in where they're only their residents. So it's not providers who are doing it in their primary care clinics, but we're talking specifically about people providing the services on the street.
Outside of the walls.
And because we know in front of me, there's 1 million people providing outreach services to persons experiencing homelessness, but we're focusing this specific collaborative on people providing medical services.
Awesome.
So we're excited about that. So, yeah.
Why don't we put that in as one of these steps? Since we're already having it in our plan.
Don't steal it. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I could just put it in here. So I mean, I like putting in things we're already plans. Like,
Okay, thank you. Veronica, do you want to go over the announcement for the second thing?
Page 2.
Revisions to our governance charter will be presented at the next meeting, March 18th. And then the full charter will be presented for approval to the full membership on April 15th.
So this is about the board reconfiguration. It was really hard to figure out how to do this. So some of you your seats are already empty. So next month, we're bringing back the governance charter language that reconfigures the board, so you can look at it. April, membership has to vote on it. And then we'll fill the seats. May. You're all following this? So it's a long process, because you have to look at the language first, then the membership has to approve it, and then the seats will get filled. So it's a complicated time.
The plan that was discussed last month was that we would approve the charter and appoint a new board in April. My concern is we're not publicly announcing that we're accepting nominations for board seats that don't exist yet. And I think that we need to give the public some time to understand what governance board seat changes we've made and have the opportunity to nominate themselves or someone else if they want to, and you have to be a COC member to do a nomination, but it doesn't take much to become a member, so.
Sounds like a plan.
So I'm recommending that we make the May meeting also a full membership, and we do the the board voting in May. Sound good?
Is everyone following that? Okay, sorry. So I'm hoping that everybody who's here, whose seats are there expiring, are not actually thinking like your work is done, because we do need to. We're hoping that, you know, you will consider nominating yourself again.
Come to one more meeting. Don't run away. And then we'll.
All right, so the next meeting is gonna be the 18th of March, correct, in this room?
Yeah.
Okay, and do we have a location for the other meeting? Because I'm assuming that would probably need a bigger room.
The April 15th?
Well, somewhere in that range.
Is that
No,
what you're talking
no, the.
They will have 5
stakeholder.
stakeholder meetings.
I may end up trying to have it over in public health and conference room C, because it's bigger, isn't it?
C or A or the one.
One, conference room one, that's right, yeah.
It's about the same size. It might be a little bigger. It's not a lot bigger than this.
Shorter and.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bigger difference.
We'll have to think about, I mean, I don't love this room just in general, but I can't right now think of a better one, so we'll.
If the tables weren't here, it's just.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's chairs.
Yeah. Just. It's okay, we can.
All right. Next meeting, next main COC meeting is the 18th at 1:30 here in this room.
But it is good size.
Thank you guys for coming.
Great.
Yeah, everybody, I'll be in touch.
Okay. I know, it's all. It's so fun.
Oh, yeah, no problem. I know if I don't do the TV, I would be right now. I got my calendar. Yeah, but it's very different. Most nothing will change, but I won't.
I don't know how you're gonna organize your conversations, but I have a particular.
Okay.
Behavioral
Beautiful question.
Yes.
I believe.
That would be wonderful. I bet it's about this. Everybody laughed.
And whenever we.
Thank you all. Appreciate everything.
You don't have to do it.
Take care.
So,
How do I?
So you're saying.
Yeah.
Look like that was.